We're going to see it on that screen when it goes live.
That's delayed. Let us know when we're live streaming. Sweet. Thank you.
Hey guys.
I feel like we need some background music to let people filter in.
Yeah. Well, we're live, right?
Well, we are live, but no one's watching yet.
Oh, okay.
Just gotta give it a minute.
People are going to see this in the pod. Playback.
Wow, we can edit that out. You're getting it live right now, ladies and gentlemen.
How's everyone doing? If you can see us, put a message in the chat.
Yeah, in the chat.
So it's probably going to be that way.
Oh no, because the camera's reversed. I think it's that way.
Oh yeah.
That's why our sheds read back.
Yeah, I got some sick session merch here. I think we actually did a giveaway recently.
I think we did, yeah.
So someone's going to get some session merch.
And you know what? There's some extremely limited edition Loki merchandise.
Oh yeah.
That's going to be a collector's item.
Yeah,
kind of cool.
That's true. I still have a lot of Loki merch actually. I'll still be rocking it.
It's good. It's good stuff, man. I wear it all the time. We did well all those years ago. Anyway, I'm just going to wait until I can see some stuff in the chat, and then we'll edit out. Once we post this online, we'll edit out all of this preamble because I'm sure everyone's keen to get us into some questions. So yeah,
I see someone I know in the chat.
Someone I know in the chat as well. It's been a big day. It's been a long list of some very large announcements that we've been sitting on for a long time, and I'm so stoked because I've been waiting for all this stuff to come out so we can actually get cracking on executing it. There's a lot of content in the announcements, obviously, and there's quite a very large number of things that's going on there, not just for Chainflip, not just for Loki being renamed Oxen, but there's also a whole ton of stuff coming out with Session and Lokinet imminently. In fact, by the time this AMA gets republished tomorrow morning, we've got a really excellent surprise for you guys with Session, something that we've been working on for literally months and months and months. And it's really going to earmark the start of our resumption of our marketing for Session that we've been kind of holding off on for the last 6 months while we allow the developers to catch up and kind of go back to the drawing board on a fair few parts of the stack to make sure that it is actually reliable. And the results of that have been really good. The retention is way up. So any new users that we do get now are much more likely to stick around, and that's going to have some really positive benefits for the product as a whole. Yeah. But we got more to cover there throughout this AMA. But all right, so I guess we'll get started. We did get a bunch of questions submitted. If you haven't already, I highly recommend you go out there and read the major announcement blog post. There is so much content to cover in there. I try not to go over what's already in there. I'm sure a lot of you have already read it. But there is a lot of stuff to cover and a lot of questions we already were able to answer in the Telegram, Discord, and other community channels today. And there have been a lot of questions because it is a dense set of announcements. We wanted to bring it out all at once because there is some good news, there is some bad news, and there is some really excellent news as well. And to deliver it as a single package, we think was the best way forward because there is a lot of change that's been happening behind the scenes here at Loki, and obviously one of the major things that comes along with that is we are no longer going to be called Loki, we're going to be called Oxen, and we really think this is super important. Loki, we love the name. I'm sure lots of you guys also love the name. We've had it for a long time, but as we've gone out there and really tried to promote our work in the wider community, we often do just get written off because we're an older project, and people out there that have capital to deploy, they really do want to see that things are fresh, that it's got an interesting narrative, and that it's relevant to the time. And so we think that now we have evolved as a project, now that we've actually developed pretty much all the tools that we said we were going to develop all those years ago, and we have built all these tools and libraries and protocols and solutions along the way that other developers can leverage. It's time to really capitalize on that and rebrand, reframe, refocus the narrative on those sort of things. And I think in the medium to long term, that's going to have some incredible benefits for the project. Really changing the value proposition and making it very, very clear. Loki it's a great name, but it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. You know, it is a kind of a confusing array of products that to many do seem kind of unrelated at first glance. Of course, you know, it's all backed by the service node network. It's all the same thesis and value proposition and the same development team that's been doing all the work. But
I think that's the thing that we've struggled with a lot, because we understand the whole stack very well, because obviously we're the builders of it. But for a new person coming in, it can often be disorientating for them to find out about Session and then find out about, oh, there's actually this cryptocurrency aspect to it, this service node aspect to it. And then adding Chainflip onto that as well was creating even more confusion. So I think to condense it down into a more simple and easy to consume package, I think that's what the Oxen rebrand's really going to do.
Yeah. It's hard to understand just how much impact we think this is going to have. You know, it's a huge deal. We've actually got to be the ones that have got to go out there and rename everything, which is going to take a long time. It's a big investment from the team in terms of man hours to actually execute on that, develop that brand and everything else. But we honestly think it's probably one of the best uses of time that we can be doing right now. So yeah, I think it's really positive. Anyway, thanks for joining us. I'm starting to see some people jumping into the chat now, which is really awesome. Yeah. If you're watching this post the AMA, there is going to be another one at a different time of day. So if you're in a different time zone, you might be able to catch it. That's going to be at 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. And we'll be posting the link to that as well. So if you have follow-up questions that weren't answered in this one, feel free to jump in there. We'll be around tomorrow. And then if there's more questions, we'll just keep going. We'll do it every day this week if we have to. It's a dense package, and I want to make sure everyone has their questions answered, has their thoughts and their ideas and their concerns heard, so that we can, you know, get on with the job of actually making all these great things happen. So I've got a bunch of questions here. Some of them were submitted through Menti, and I'll go through those first. And these are in no particular order. Okay, first one: how far along is Session? How far along is the Session security audit, and will the EFF eventually review it? This is a great question, Kee. You've been talking to the auditors. Maybe you want to give an update on this one.
Yeah, so we have finished the iOS audit and we've finished the Android audit. So the last thing to come is the desktop audit, which will be kicking off imminently. I can't give an exact date because we don't know exactly what they're going to find and how long it's going to take to fix any of the issues that they find, but it's coming quickly. And it's happening pretty fast. I mean, the stuff that we've gotten back from the audit is some unexpected stuff that we fixed, but most of it's been what we expected to receive back from the audit. And those patches are rolling out as well, fixing any bugs that they found. So yeah, expect an update, you know, in the coming weeks on the audit. I expect it'll be done pretty quickly.
The audit's going to unlock a lot of opportunities for Session as well. You know, your question about the EFF is a really great one. A lot of these larger NGOs that do promote digital rights and that sort of thing just straight out refuse to work with software packages that haven't been security audited. So once this audit goes through, and you know, we've made an investment in that, and it's taken a long time to happen. There's, you know, it's a long process, and they're doing each platform sequentially as well. So it does take a while, but once the audit's complete, you know, that really does open up the floodgates to all of those major organizations, including the EFF, to be able to, you know, take a deeper look at it and make it a part of their promotion, because Session really is unparalleled in the marketplace at this point. You know, there aren't any other mature products like it that offer the same level of security and privacy. You know, some might say it's overkill, but we just say, if you want certainty, this is what you have to use. You know, this is about as good as it's ever going to get, and it really is a very, very compelling solution that we've spent like 2 years building, like engineering-wise, and we've had to solve a lot of incredibly challenging problems along the way. You know, you're talking about a messaging service that has no central server. How the hell do you do push notifications if that's the case, for instance? What normally happens is, you know, Telegram or Facebook or whatever will process a message being sent on their central server, and then they'll say, hey, Google, old mate's got a new message. Can you send them a notification, please? You can't do that if there is no Facebook or Google middleman in the way. So we've had to come up with some incredibly inventive and creative ways of having that system work so that people have a similar user experience to other messaging apps. If if the user experience isn't similar or isn't as reliable, people just don't use it. So while it'd be nice to be working on more features, VoIP calls, all that sort of thing, without that, those really, really basic functionalities down, none of that matters. And that's what we've really been focusing on the last 6 months, which is a boring thing to say. But we're now at that point where we're happy now to turn the taps back on. Once the security audit finishes, that's going to give us a lot more authority in the space to be able to go out there and say, yes, this is what we've built. This is why it's useful. This is why it should become a part of your digital security strategy. And that applies to NGOs, individuals, businesses, governments, the whole works. So something we're really excited about. And we have I'm just going to say, we've got an amazing promotional video that we've been working on for 6+ months that we'll be releasing tomorrow to give you guys a taste of just how much marketing muscle we have at the ready for Session. And I think you guys will be really excited about it. So that's that. Okay, more questions. Okay, what blockchain is Oxen going to run on such that all the privacy properties it would have had it run on Loki? Well, Oxen is just renaming. It's the same blockchain, it's the same token. Users don't need anything to do anything at all in order to receive Oxen tokens because they are just Loki tokens. This is a rename. It is not. We're not putting things on a new blockchain. We're not ditching all of the hard work that we've done. We spent so long putting Pulse and Blink and LNS and all these things together. It is the same blockchain. It has the same privacy properties. It has the same selling points that make it such a compelling product in the first place. Yeah. And users won't need to do anything to receive Oxen tokens because they already have them. They're just going to be called something else now. That's going to roll out over the next few weeks. So while we're announcing the name change today, the branding and stuff, we're really allowing a lot of time for that to occur so that we can produce something that's super high quality and not just meets the standard that Loki's at, but actually far exceeds it. We've gotten so much better at branding over the last few years, and we're really excited with the challenge that we've set here to give the whole project a brand new identity, and something we're really looking forward to. What else have we got here? Will there be any community vote for the name change to other names with good potential SEO? No. At this point, Oxen is definitely locked in. We spent a lot of time coming up with a better name than Loki. I understand that some people have a lot of investment in the name of Loki. Naturally speaking, we do as well. We've lived and breathed the project for the last 3 years, and to see this brand that we've been working on and positioning for the last 3 years being replaced, it is a challenging thing. But as we said before, we think the benefits will far outstrip that initial headache. And Oxen, we've done all the analysis. We came up with about 100 names or more, probably more even. And of all of them, we did multiple rounds within the team. We asked a few external people as well to spitball some ideas off them, and that's where we landed. Naming things is super hard, and it's one of those things where, it's not a popularity contest. Someone might like a particular name, but then for SEO reasons or other reasons, it might just not be practical. And so at some point, a decision has to be made, and we've made that decision. It's going to be Oxen. So I hope that as the branding rolls out, everyone will get on board with that name because, while it does have a meaning, it really is a blank slate in terms of SEO. There is literally nothing out there using the name. We bought the domain for it, and we're really excited about being able to establish our own corner of the internet that isn't competing with the Marvel character this time around. So I think that'll be really positive. Are there any plans in the future once Lokinet is fully developed to fork Onionshare and make it usable via Lokinet? You know what Onionshare is, actually?
Yeah, so Onionshare is essentially like a hidden service file sharing application. And I think something like that could be extremely cool on Lokinet. I'm not sure if we would exactly fork it, but we might build something that's comparable, or a community member might come along and build something that's comparable. It's already possible on Lokinet. You don't need the exit functionality. You just need hidden service functionality, the snap functionality, which we've already got in there. So yeah, that would be something that would be really cool for a community member to build. But if that's something that we see a lot of interest for, that might also be something that we can take on ourselves.
Follow-up question, does the Loki Foundation plan to work with SIA's Skynet technology or SIA in general? Do you see any potential privacy and decentralization advantages to a collaboration with SIA?
So I've looked into SIA a little bit. I must say not as much as I've looked into Arweave. But when I looked into CNET a couple of months ago, it looked more similar to like IPFS, where a user needs to actually pin content for it to stay online. I think we kind of prefer the idea of Arweave, where you pay once to upload content and it's uploaded forever and always accessible. It doesn't need to actually be continually pinned by one person. So I think we're going to be looking further into our collaboration with Arweave. We already have some stuff that's working actually already with them, with Silo, which was announced a couple of months ago. But I think you'll be seeing more of that with the new Lokinet client release and the exit release.
As the Lokinet technology has like reached basically feature completion, exit node functionality is coming out imminently. Like yeah, we're ready to release it basically. There's obviously lots happening this week, but technically speaking, we're done. We fixed all the problems with GUI. Things are working really well. It's ready to go out there. You'll be able to browse the internet anonymously through Lokinet on the mainnet, on the service node network this week probably, which is really exciting. But that feature completion is really important for integrations into technologies like Arweave, like Skynet. Having it's all well and good to say, oh yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to work with these people, blah blah blah. But that's pretty much just lip service until it's actually built. And now it has been built. It's about hooking up that integration, actually making it happen. That's the thing that we got to do now, and we're totally ready to do it. So super stoked about that. Super excited. Okay, Chainflip questions now. A flip airdrop is occurring for SN operators. Will this airdrop be distributed to Loki stakers who have contributed to pooled nodes as well? If not, is it prudent to destake now and set up your own node? Do not destake now. The idea here is that the airdrop will occur on a per SN basis, but if that SN is split, it will be prorated based on the percentage of the contribution. So let's say you contributed 2/3 to a service node, you can register to get 2/3 worth of one service node's worth of airdrop. That probably sounds a bit confusing. I'll say it again. If you have contributed 1/3 to one service node, you will get 1/3 of a single service node's worth of airdropped tokens. And you don't have to do anything right now to do that. Full instructions will be released. The airdrop is not going to happen probably for a few weeks. There are still some legal questions that need to be settled before any details can be locked in there, but that's the intention. That's what we're carrying forward. So if you're wondering, how you can access the various flip burning programs, you don't actually need to do anything right now, and you'll have ample opportunity to stake, unstake, whatever you want to do before it actually rolls out. So don't stress. You don't actually need to do anything at all today with any of the news that we have. All the instructions will be laid out super clear. We're just setting the intention that, yes, if you are staking, you'll receive an airdrop. If you're not staking, you'll be able to burn some tokens and receive flip if that's what you want to do. There's no obligation to do that either. There will be some registration process involved. Loki being an anonymous blockchain, we can't just hand things out because we don't know who to hand them out to. And there's, again, remaining legal questions about exactly what we will have to do to ensure that Chainflip isn't going to be adversely affected through this program either. So sit tight. There will be instructions. It's not going to happen for a little while yet. There'll be plenty of time. There's no need to rush. There's no need to stress. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. Looking now at the chat. Okay. Okay, there's some general questions here. There's actually a couple others written down as well. I feel like the community is a bit unhappy with Chainflip moving out. What are your thoughts? And there's other questions like this as well. For instance, why would we want to hang on to Oxen? Blah blah blah. These are really valid questions. I think for a lot of people that have joined the project more recently, with Chainflip being supported on Loki, there has been a lot of people that gotten involved in Loki for the first time because of it. And that's something the Chainflip team really wants to crystallize. So if you are in that boat, you are being given the opportunity to have exposure to it. And the only way you can do that right now publicly is to hold these Oxen tokens and either stake them or be ready to burn them. The rates will be really good because there's something that can't be replicated very easily. And and that is a loyal, dedicated community following. And that is what currently exists with Chainflip, and that's what currently also wants to be carried across. So the intention there is that if you are in that boat where you only care about Chainflip, there are roads for you to be able to move your capital allocation into that if that's what you want to do. And that is a completely understandable position and something the Chainflip team and the Loki team are very, very aware of. So just wanted to put that out there. Understandably, I think there's been a lot of hype around Chainflip, but look, the reality is that since it was announced, the legal environment has changed, and in a sense, our hands are pretty tied here. With the requirements for how the development has to roll out, with the resources that are currently allocated to Chainflip, we would be waiting an incredibly long time to see products getting out there, and that is not something that we're super comfortable with. We think there's so much more potential out there for Chainflip to go out there, scale up, and really hit it hard with the value proposition that it has, which is actually quite different from Loki's original value proposition anyway. So it makes sense on multiple levels. And yeah, when it was announced, the conditions were different, and we're now several months down the track. Things have changed, and unless you're willing to adapt to change, what we're talking about here is technology startups. Technology startups have to be very, very nimble in the way that they approach these problems, and sometimes the cold hard reality is that your original plans fall through, and you have to adapt and do something else to make sure that you're not going to be adversely affected because you've stuck to your word exactly. That being said, the Chainflip team. So what were you going to say?
Well, I think the other thing is it's an understandable reaction as well, because when the idea was initially proposed, I was vehemently against it. But once you start to understand the realities of the situation, and then also understand the bullishness of it as well, I think it becomes clear. But I think a lot of people, and the people who are most involved with Loki as well, are the ones that tend to have the most negative reaction because they're very associated with the brand. And I have a very strong association with Loki because I've been working at this company for 3 years. So when Simon came forward and said, "Oh, we're going to get rid of the name Loki," I had a very strong pullback.
That's not exactly how.
Yeah. I mean, there was more talking, there was more discussion than that.
A lot more discussion.
Yeah. But the point is that I think having a strong reaction and saying, well, what's going on, I think that makes sense.
Completely natural. It's something we've all gone through. Even myself, realizing that the situation had changed, and that what we were planning on doing looked pretty untenable, and then having a moment where I was like, holy shit, what are we actually going to do now? And then working through the process of all the various different options and ways we can move forward, and all of the reactions within the team to that. And then, over time, this plan has crystallized. It's taken a couple months. It's taken a lot of discussion, a lot of debate back and forth. We've considered hundreds of different scenarios and options, and this is where we've landed. And it's not been easy. And I completely understand the community perspective as well, to see a lot of these changes, especially all coming out at once. It is quite confusing, and that confusion can actually create, just negativity in general. So, but as Kee said, I'm actually more bullish than ever on all of our projects. The state of where all the projects are at is better than it has ever been. Session is imminently about to explode, we think, with the resources that we have. We have the data, we have the team, we know we can do it. Lokinet exits are finally able to come out. Our new business development arm is there at the ready. This is a very recent development because with us opening up our technology stack, we now have to be on the offensive. We can't just be here and chill here anymore. That was what we had to do because we didn't actually have anything that anyone could practically use until quite recently. Now that is not the case, now we're on the offensive. Now we're going out there, we're going to be seeking major partnerships, looking to get our technology integrated in some major tools. As someone pointed out in the chat earlier, this is something that some people probably missed in the chat, but the technology that we have could be deployed in some incredible ways. For instance, Zoom is something that everyone was talking about at the start of the pandemic because they were looking for a place that they could have discussions, but then there were all these security concerns. There was a major international news story. Everyone started freaking out and looking for alternatives. But the reality is there just aren't really better alternatives out there. There is no really good way to do private video chat anywhere. It's, there's, you can do calls and whatever and Signal, but that's unreliable. It's quite slow. It's a bad user experience. And so to be able to take some of the Oxen stack, integrate that into those similar solutions like Jitsi and Mattermost and all these different productivity tools is a really exciting thing. We do think that this is, the building blocks of better privacy technologies across the board. And so it's something that we're really excited about. I'll just quickly look at the chat. So I can't talk and look at the chat, so it's kind of hard.
I think some people are saying that there's audio issues. Maybe they said that there's an echo. Maybe we should open up.
Not echo, more like overall quality. Let me try change the audio device. Maybe we're using a bad one. I should have set up a microphone. I don't know why we didn't do that. Yeah. Do that for tomorrow. Sorry, guys. Okay.
Right, it's not using the webcam.
Okay. Hopefully.
Is that any better, guys? Can you tell us in the chat?
Or Jimmy, can you tell if that's better? All right, we'll give it a go. Thanks, man. Sorry about that.
Okay, people are saying
it's better. So this is very good. Okay. Where were we? I'll get back to your questions. Yeah, by the way, you can see you're all there. This is great. If you have more questions, please have them, and we'll get around to them. Did that one. What is going to happen with Loki Core development? For example, continued research and development, wallet design, new features. Yes, absolutely. Loki Core will be Oxen Core, but same things going on. We've still got to do reblink. We're actually redesigning how we're doing our mobile wallets. We've created completely new apps because the ones that we currently have are not that great and they're a pain to update. So we've brought someone on from the Loki community that you might know, Constantine, to help us get a new version of that up and running. The Loki Core development will continue in earnest. There's still a lot more features to be done, still a lot of things with LNS that need to happen. And of course, making sure that the user experience is good. We're probably looking at doing that sharding thing at some point to really speed up syncing times and that sort of thing so that it can be integrated into Session and it can be integrated into a Lokinet Onion VPN marketplace and be a positive user experience. We really, really stress that, it's one thing to have an anonymous cryptocurrency, but if it sucks to use, no one's going to use it. And that is pretty reflected in how Zcash's adoption panned out. Zcash in its unshielded form is just like Bitcoin, so it's quite easy to use. As soon as you go into that shielded area, it's a huge hassle and it's a huge pain in the ass. So unless those user experience issues are solved, there's no real point trying to get it adopted because it's not going to happen. So we really have to be prudent about how we go about these things. And we know what it's going to take to have a positive user experience because we are users and we know what it's like to use things. We know what we use on a daily basis and we know what we've tried out and we think it sucks and we've never opened it again. So, whenever we release things, we always like to make sure that it does meet standards. It does meet expectations because otherwise people try it out and then they never try it out again. And that is not a way to drive adoption of anything. And I think that's what a lot of crypto projects miss a lot of the time. They think it's enough to just put something out there that does what it says it does on paper. It's kind of like atomic swaps, right? In theory, it's great. Native integration, you can swap things across chains, but in practice, it's a collateral-based system. And no one wants to use collateral-based systems, so it's not going to get used.
We've just hired a new developer for Loki Core who will go on with Jason as well. So there'll be 2 Loki Core developers working on, Oxen, I suppose, when the rebrand happens full time. So I think you've hit the nail on the head. Like we really will be trying to focus on usability, becoming one of the most usable private currencies while maintaining the privacy aspects of things, because I think, that's something that other privacy coins have missed a lot of, is that usability aspect.
As you said, just because you have something on paper doesn't mean people actually want to use it. They're not the same thing. And
I think that's something that we've struggled with as well. The initial release of Loki Messenger was pretty rough, I'd say. but we've really committed a lot of time into developing it, and even removing some features where we feel that they're actually negatively impacting the user experience, with the hope of bringing them back later on with a better user experience.
Better implementation, or higher reliability, all that stuff. So I hope that makes sense. Chat. Cool. How does the development stack drive the adoption of the Oxen token? It's a really good question. I think that with all of the things that we're putting out there, I think there's a lot of potential for these integrations to be done in really unexpected ways that'll have massive benefits for the project. I think there's a lot of potential for new revenue streams for the foundation to come into play with that as well, particularly in areas of education, consultancy, software development. There's a lot of capacity to really expand and grow the team, and that's going to have knock-on effects as well. But there are also things that we are planning on doing as a part of developing this stack to make it easy for people to integrate Oxen into whatever tools they are building, so that they do have access to that functionality. They do get exposure to the blockchain side of things and not just the other tools that we're building. It's all part of the same thing. So particularly with the Onion VPN marketplace, I think with the partnerships that we're going to be trying to build with major VPN companies to get them to make their infrastructure available as Onion VPN exits, and then have those exits be paid for in the Oxen marketplace, make it super easy for people, potentially work with some partners to make fiat payments possible so that people don't have to suffer around with all the crypto side of things. There's a lot of potential there. All long-term stuff, it's not going to happen overnight, but with the stack that we have, there is potential for millions and millions of people to be using our technology, whether or not they know it. And there's so many ways that could translate into massive benefits for the project as well, and the token.
And I think another point to make, and someone was saying this in the chat earlier, is it's not just us opening up and saying like, oh, okay, you guys do everything. You guys develop everything on Oxen, because we'll still be running with Lokinet and Session, which are our premier applications, which are built on the Oxen network. So we still have these shining examples of decentralized applications that are built and leveraging all of the parts of the Oxen network. But at the same time, we're using those tools that we've built to build those applications. We're going to make them more consumable by external developers. So it'll be like adding another prong on our spear in terms of getting the Oxen network.
Is it going to have an immediate effect on demand for the token? No, and no one's saying that it is, but this is a medium to long-term strategy change that we think is going to have massive benefits in the long run. And so, yeah, it is what it is. Okay, there's a couple of questions around KYC for the airdrop. I don't know. Depends on the legal team. What I meant by said we don't know who to send it to is literally like we don't know what address to send the tokens to. Like if you're an SN operator, you don't have an Ethereum address tied to that. So there's nowhere to send it to. So there has to be some sort of registration process. Whether or not that involves KYC is an open question. I don't have the answers to it right now. As soon as we do, you'll find out. So I hope that answers that question. Just for the sake of it, can you please assure there is no exit scam from the local team? Okay, just some common sense, right? If we were exit scamming, would we be here in front of a camera talking to everyone? We would probably just go silent and we wouldn't say anything, and we'd be in the fucking Bahamas or whatever. Not that we have enough money to do that. I think our actions speak much louder than any words I could say right now. This is not how you would exit scam. You don't front up to people that you're trying to screw over. It's not a good strategy. We're here. We'll always be here. We want to be here not just for this year or next year, but for the next 5 years. And this strategy that we're rolling out now is the way to do that. And I really want to stress that we are not going anywhere. The team is here. No one's getting cut. No one's getting fired. We're not dropping projects, as some people suggested would have been the prudent thing to do. That's low ambition. If that's really how we felt about it, and we needed to cut things in order to survive, that is not a positive outlook on the future. We have much bigger hopes for what we're doing here. So that's something that we never want to do if we can avoid it, and we absolutely can avoid it, and that's why we're rolling out this strategy. So I hope that makes sense. What else we got here? Oh, good question. If external people build on the service node network, is there potential for the increased traffic to negatively affect Session and Lokinet? How can you limit who uses the service node network? And if the SN requirements increase, how do operators get compensated? Great question. Really, really great question. There is a balance between allowing things to be adopted, but obviously that comes at a cost, and the cost is going to be increased expenses for node operators. At the moment, in terms of scalability, our network is basically not utilized. Some node operators have noticed increase in costs, but that's really not surprising given that before, as service node operators, the only thing they had to run was the Loki blockchain, and now they have to run Lokinet and the storage server for Session.
Actually, I think most people were referring to the growing size of the blockchain as well, like in terms of the size that you needed to store increasing because of the blockchain. So I think the primary concern is that you get a lot of traffic without much of that translating into an increase in the Oxen price. And that's something that we're definitely very aware of. It's, as Simon said, it's a balancing act. Like, you want to bring new users in, but you don't want those users to also just leech off the system as well. But it's something that we're very, very aware of as well. So like in any design decisions that we're making, we always consider that as one of our primary
And
concerns.
it is kind of a chicken and egg problem as well. It's like, well, on the one hand, if the technology doesn't get adopted, what's the point of any of it? On the other hand, if it does get adopted, there are going to be more expenses, and is that going to be paid for? And so on the one hand, you can increase operating costs expecting a return through greater adoption, or you can not do the adoption, and I don't know what the other option is. That's pretty, like, costs are going to potentially increase. That being said, the point I was trying to raise was, if you are following the recommended settings for your VPS for your service nodes, you will not have to upgrade for an extraordinarily long time. Even when we're talking millions and millions of users here, we have a node network of 1,200, and that's huge. That's massive, especially with the level of hardware that we have available, with the calculations on the scalability that we have, and the improvements to the scalability that we're making in the software over time. We don't see that there'll be much need, unless you're running like really crap VPSs that you shouldn't be running anyway, that you'll need to upgrade it all for quite some time, even when we're talking millions of users. So this isn't an immediate threat, but it is a good question.
And we are both also personally service node operators, so we also kind of intimately understand what it takes to run a service node and what the costs are. So that's not something that we're taking a blind eye to.
Yeah, it all has an impact. ETA on a new logo, and then there's another question: is Session Lokinet moving forward going to be heavily marketed with Oxen, or they remain largely separate entities and Oxen is more the backbone suite that runs all the premier products? Really great questions. ETA on the logo, next few weeks. We're working with our designer right now. We've seen some stuff that we're pretty excited about, but really good brands take quite a while to roll out. So we're hoping to be able to show you some stuff in probably 2 or 3 weeks, and then actually start, deploying new websites and that sort of thing, probably into December. But it is going to take a little bit, but trust me, it's going to be worth the wait. And then in terms of how Oxen, the interplay between the various products, so Lokinet, which will not be called Lokinet, but something much better, Session and Oxen, how the marketing interplay works there. With the new framing of Oxen, using Oxen in the marketing materials of Lokinet and Session makes a lot more sense, because then it's something that really is built on the backbone of a privacy, secure communications protocol. That's what we're saying Oxen is going forward. It's not necessarily all these different things, service node network, yada, yada, yada. So this reframing really does give us an opportunity to bring the Oxen brand into those other products a bit more than we otherwise have been. And I think that won't be confusing to new people as much as it has been in the past. So I definitely think there's potential there. It's a good question for Josh, though. I should probably get into answer your question in a chat channel at a later time. I'll be interested to see what his thoughts on that are. We haven't actually discussed that yet.
Yeah, I mean, I have some thoughts on that as well. Like, I think like that's, as Simon said, like now that the brands are less separate, there is some more interplay between them. But I think it's still important for us that we don't shock people who are coming into Session with the idea of a cryptocurrency straight away, because that can often be something that they might have heard Bitcoin's a scam or something like that, and then that rubs off on Session as well. So it's something that you have to be careful with when you're introducing new users who might not necessarily know about a cryptocurrency to a new cryptocurrency.
Will Session be getting Lokinet integration for voice video calls? The app has been great to use, and calls are the major feature that is missing that would make it even better. We do have plans in place to do those extra features, and Lokinet is one of the possible options there, although it's now no longer a requirement. The answer is yes. The question is when. And the answer to that is basically when we have time to do it. Because at the moment, as I said, we're still making sure that the app does the basic stuff really well. If it doesn't do the basic stuff really well, if it's a messaging app and the messages don't come through or you don't get notifications or anything like that, what's the point in having video calls? So, we're really making sure that we've got the basic stuff rolled out. You can do group chats reliably. You can have one-on-one conversations reliably. And the user experience there is all bright and dandy before we bother going out and adding those extra features. But we've been making changes on the back end to enable that possibility, but it really is going to depend on, as we do this marketing push now, if any issues arise, that'll affect the timeline that we can estimate for new features, but the engineers are constantly working, constantly balancing that 50 million priorities. It's a messaging app. There's about 1,000 features you could add to it if you wanted to. It's about prioritizing that with the resources that we have and the time that we have and what the priorities and demands are. So video and voice chat is something we've been super keen on for a very long time. And as we said, the technology stack is perfectly suited to it. But it is one of those things where, we have to balance the resources we have versus the potential output we're expecting in terms of user growth. That's the real thing that's going to make a difference there.
Yeah. So, voice chat in particular is something that we've been looking at quite intensely over the last couple of weeks. So we have a pretty solid design. It's just about when that's going to take priority over some of the other things like adding back multi-device or removing the proof of work aspect from Session as well, which also are quite important.
Are there plans to make Lokinet available to access Clarinet websites? Are you looking to make Lokinet available on mobile devices? Yes, Xnode is coming out imminently, as we've already said. In terms of mobile devices, that's an integration that we've been working on. But again, unless that basic user experience where you can access Clarinet websites on desktop reliably happen, we're not going to be putting any real effort into the mobile side of things. But it is obviously a feature that would be excellent for Lokinet. And it is something that we've already, we've got it building on Android already. It's just, there's a lot of complexity around VPN APIs and that sort of thing that mobile devices just really don't play nicely on. Sorry about the car horns out there. Again, it's about priorities and that sort of thing. And we want to make sure that the basic functionality works super well, because without that, what's the point? So that's the focus there. I think that might be all of the ones we have written down. When can we, I missed a couple here. When can we expect to see people starting to build on the Oxen privacy stack? We're planning on putting out some of the earlier libraries pretty soon. We're pretty much ready to roll. It's not going to take much at all, but it'll happen after the name changes occurred, obviously, so we get that brand recognition. But by the end of the year, we should have libraries out there, business development in full swing. So we'll see. It's about driving sales essentially for these products. So I really hope the business development team can line some stuff up pretty soon. But I think in terms of the utility of the tools and what the potential is there, I think we can do some stuff much earlier than people might think by this. From the sounds of the announcement. We've finished building these libraries and protocols and stuff, and writing a bit of documentation and packaging them up. It doesn't take a lot of work. So it's mostly got to do with the fluff around the technology rather than the technology itself. But pretty soon. Okay, there's a couple of This is a really wild idea, but I think it may be good. Do you guys have any plans for making Session more social network-like? I feel like integrating features from apps like Snapchat/Discord. Great question. And there are so many different ways we can take this. We have made it clear that Session is a secure messaging app, and it will reflect the features that people expect from that experience in that way. So no, Session itself will not become a Discord replacement. But with the stack opening up, we want to be able to reach out to people like Discord. They probably won't do it, but people like Mattermost, and say, hey, we've got this excellent technology stack that'll add XYZ security features and XYZ privacy features to your entire user base. Maybe consider putting this here, and this here, and here's the documentation for how it works. And that is the sort of thing that is now possible. So there's lots of open source projects out there already that with the addition, or not necessarily even open source, there's closed source projects out there as well. Yeah, that's the sort of thing that's possible now, where we can have productivity tools, social media applications,
Well, and I think there's actually one being built on Lokinet right now.
There is, there is indeed.
Yeah.
Cafe Loki, which I assume will become, I don't know, the Oxen
Cafe
I'll have to ask
Oxen,
them what they're thinking is now. But yeah, there is actually.
We did try out an early beta of it, and it was very impressive.
Yeah.
It's very impressive what they've built on top of Lokinet. It's very similar to a social network you would have interacted with before. So yeah, I think there is a team taking that route, and I think that will be a successful product as well.
Some people are asking about private swaps on Chainflip and how the new strategy for Chainflip will impact that feature. Chainflip itself doesn't have any privacy properties, and it's blockchain agnostic. The private swap sections in the white paper that used to be there until swapped out yesterday was mostly in reference to the fact that if we did integrate a private blockchain into it, there are things you could do to make it easier for people to gain anonymity through using that chain. That is still the case. You can still do that, and with Loki or Oxen already integrated into the Chainflip stack, which it is, that's something that people could access if they choose to do it. Is it a core feature of Chainflip? No. Is it something people could still do? Yes. And is it something that we're going to be pushing super hard for? Probably not. The core selling proposition of Chainflip doesn't have anything to do with privacy. And I know that sounds confusing given that Loki is a privacy project, and I think that's what a lot of people assumed coming into it. But if you read the body of the white paper, we never claimed that Chainflip itself had any particular additional properties other than other cross-chain solutions that would make it better or worse in that regard. So there's there are things that can be done, but it's not a central feature of what makes Chainflip interesting in the first place, and it never has been. And I know that's an impression that a lot of people have gotten, but that's not something that we've ever claimed. So I think there's a lot of confusion there, but Chainflip itself is still an incredibly compelling product from a user experience perspective. I think it's going to outcompete anything else in the cross-chain space. I think we'll be one of the first to market with something that people actually want to use, that is permissionless and does give them that Shapeshift-like experience that people remember before it had KYC. So we'll see what happens there. But no, privacy is not a core feature of Chainflip and never really has been. Hope that makes sense.
I think the important part to say though is that you will still be able to get privacy by using Chainflip. It's just not something that we're going to be screaming from the rooftops when we go and market this thing.
And it's not something that we'll be building support for specifically. Other people will have the ability to do it, and there's a framework out there for them to do that if that's something they want to do. It's not something that we can really support though. Okay. Nice rebrand. I think it will suit the suite. Wondering what was meant by, with everything we've built, it's time to hand over the keys to the Ferrari. Is anyone leaving or any new members joining? Great question. Alex put that line in the blog. I thought it was kind of funny. Basically what he's saying is we built a Ferrari and now we're letting people drive it around. In other words, our technology stack is here and we've been tinkering it in our garage, but now we're opening it up and people can enjoy the experience as well and leverage the technology to get the same benefits that we've been talking about all these years out of it.
We're not leaving.
We're not leaving. No one is
guys.
leaving. In fact, we're hiring. We're hiring quite aggressively right now. Chainflip's going to have to scale up quite a lot, and even the Oxen team is also hiring at the moment. So, yeah, we're always trying to recruit. Good talent is incredibly difficult to find, and it's something that we never want to sacrifice if we get the choice. So, yeah, no one's going anywhere. Good question, Dave. It's quite funny. All right, I think we are reaching about an hour mark, and I've run out of questions that are written down. I'm just going to quickly look in the chat. Now, if you have any follow-up questions for right now, please throw them in the chat before we end the AMA. Otherwise, we'll have to do it tomorrow. But that's fine. We are going to do another one of these, 10 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time tomorrow as well. So please do join us there if it's something you have follow-up questions that you'd like answered. Otherwise, we've been in the chats all day, and we'll continue being in the chats unless we're asleep, which will be for some period of time overnight. But we'll be back.
And if you don't feel comfortable asking a question in the public chat, you can also personal
direct
message me or
message.
Simon.
Exactly.
We'll answer that for you as well. We don't want anyone to feel like, they don't know what's going on. That's the last thing we want people to feel. We want people to feel that they understand the direction that we're going in. So answering your questions is always important to us.
I've got one last question here that I can see. I see. Thank you so much for your answer. No worries. On another quick question, do you guys have plans of publishing Session on FDroid? I feel like it would be a good choice since a lot of people are switching to privacy-focused app stores. We have been trying to get on FDroid for like a year now, and they have some very stringent requirements for it that are a huge pain in the ass. We had like 3 analytics tags that were left over from the Signal code base, which is the reason it initially got rejected. They're now gone. I'm not really sure where we're up to on that, but do you know anything?
So the issue is that they need to be able to reproducibly build every aspect of the application. And because we've forked some of the application from Signal and they haven't done that work, we would have to take every element of the application, even the back-end parts that don't usually get exposed to the public, and make those all reproducible so that they could build that on their own service. It's not like you just give them an APK and then they distribute that APK. They actually need to build the application themselves, which is where the tricky part comes in for FDroid. I mean, it's something that we are continually looking at because it's been something that's very highly requested. So we're also looking to simplify a lot of the session logic, or a lot of the Signal logic that we have inside of Session now. So I think that will work us towards where we can more easily release on FDroid. It's definitely something that we've been thinking about, though.
In terms of boring stuff that probably isn't super fun to talk about in an announcement, but is actually a very high priority for the development team, is that as we move into this marketing phase, we're going to be stripping out a lot of the Signal code that we don't use, which is pretty much all of it at this point. There's very little left of the original Signal application that users actually see, and there's an incredible amount of code that just is sitting there, particularly on Android, that just isn't used. And so we're doing work now to strip out that out of the code base, pay down some technical debt, which is an incredibly boring thing to say in an announcement because people are like, oh, I want voice chats. That's not voice chats, but it is on the way there, and it does lead to us to be able to do things like he was saying, reproducible builds, which leads to things like FDroid. So although it's very dry, it's very boring, it's very important. So and as we said, we're not going anywhere. We're here for years. There's no point stopping, and we have to do these things at some point, and now is a good time to do it, so we're going to do it.
Someone made a point about ledger integration.
Oh, yeah.
Jason is working on that actively. I think we're very close. I think it's stuck in the ledger approval phase. They need to actually approve.
I think we've been waiting on ledger for quite some time at this point before we can publish anything. But we've been working on it on and off for a while, but we keep hitting these roadblocks with ledger. So hopefully it's something that gets resolved soon. They don't really have an incentive to approve new things, which is annoying because it means it's very slow. But we've done the work. It's just a matter of getting those approvals in and publishing it. But it's basically done. And I think if you're really keen, You can actually use a Nano S right now if you're willing to mess around with the software a little bit.
Yeah, you put it into developer mode, I think.
Yeah.
You can talk to Jason about that.
Yeah, if you really want it, you can do it right now. It just hasn't been published by Ledger yet, so it's not. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain to do. It's up to you though.
Sorry, you have to flash custom firmware, I think, on your device.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, you can do this what Jason did, I think. But, you know.
Shit. All right, well, I don't think there's any more questions. If I've missed any, I apologize. Please come back tomorrow at 10 a.m. or post them in the chat or put them in the Menti and I'll get around to answering them tomorrow. I don't know, are you going to be here for the AMA tomorrow?
I'm not sure. We'll have a chat about that. I wake up a bit later than usual, so we'll see if I make it to that one.
Yeah, in any case, thanks for joining us today. We hope you have had an opportunity to have some of the questions answered questions. Yeah, if you have more, please do send this through. We know this is a big package. There's a lot of content here. I'm more bullish than I've ever been. I don't know if you can tell. And yeah, I'm quite excited for what comes next. And the community is what makes things tick. So if there are questions and concerns, we want to hear them. We'll respond to them. We have been all day, and we will continue to do so. We're not going anywhere. And this is the start of an exciting new chapter in the project's history. So thanks for coming, and we will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Otherwise, around. Thanks very much.
All right, bye-bye, guys.